Hello, hello, hello. It's me, Kenny Paul Curry, your host of the party. And today is Friday, November 19th. And I'm here to get your day started. So what is it that you need to know? Investors are in love with the retailers and the semis. Do not expect any holiday sales. That is not happening. Madame Lagarde says that rates in Europe will not rise in 2022. We'll get to that in a minute. EVs are in a bit of a retreat, all right? Electric vehicles after last week's ridiculous surge. And so here's the raviolis and the classic bolognese sauce as the first dish for your Thanksgiving dinner. We'll get to that in a minute. It's a consumer palooza. Retailers are basking in the sun as investors go all in, right? Home Depot, Lowe's, Walmart, Target, Macy's, Kohl's, TJ Maxx, the list goes on. All these retailers beating the estimates on the top and bottom line, some accentuating supply chain issues, others don't appear to be that concerned. Margins are holding up as retailers raise prices, and consumers are not deterred, paying any price and taking everything off the shelves. It could not be a better time for retailers. And the XRT, the retail ETF, is now up 18% since October 1st. It's up 63% year to date. Who would have thought? Retailers up 63% in 1 year. And don't expect the usual 30 to 50% off sales that we see every year. Currently, there's no need. Consumers are so desperate to spend money, and retailers have no interest in cutting prices. In fact, forget Christmas and the holiday season. Retailers are already planning on a strong Valentine's Day and a strong Easter and Passover holiday. Watch for the big red Valentines any day now, I'm sure, followed by the chocolate Easter bunnies and the Easter bonnets, right? That's going to be the next thing that you're going to see on the shelves before Christmas, I'm sure. NVIDIA, the A-list semiconductor name, also adding to the excitement after their report broke all records, initially setting that stock up 11% as the opening bell rang to settle the day up nearly 5% at $316.75. And this helped to send the semiconductor ETFs on a tear as well. The iShares SOX index up 1.7%, VanEck SMH index up 2.5%, and the S&P XSD index ETF up 0.6%, leaving all three of those ETFs kissing new highs. The S&P NASDAQ closing at new highs, new records, rising 15 and 72 points respectively. The Dow gave back 60, the Russell gave up 13, the transports lost 54. The 10-year Treasury gained in price, sending yield lower to end the day yielding 1.55%, with the 30-year yielding 1.93. The VIX gained a little bit of ground, rising 2.8% as investors want to be all in but remain just on the edge, waiting to see what the Fed announcement, hoping that it offers some clarity on future policy. Remember, both choices, Powell and Brainerd, are doves. She's a bit more dovish, and the markets would love that even more than they love Jay. So we have to wait. Overnight, Madame Lagarde, ECB European Central Bank president, told Europe that she does not think 2022 is the right time to begin to raise rates. This even as inflation in that region is running at 4.5%, well ahead of her 2% target, because she expects inflation to fade, as in transitory. Sound familiar? And in the EV space, right, electric vehicles, both Rivian and Lucid continued their retreat after the almost psychotic surge last week. Rivian is now down 33% from Friday's high, while Lucid is down 26%. Tesla, which had gotten beaten up a bit for a range of reasons last week, falling nearly 20%, has recovered as the trader types found value in that 20% off sale, taking it back up 15% by last night. This as Lonnie continues to sell stock. So the idea that his sales last week sent investors running for the hills suddenly makes 0 sense, right? Because they're continuing to take him out of his position on plus ticks. Ecodata showed us that the initial jobless claims was a bit more than expected, but continuing claims was better than expected. The Philly Fed survey exploding higher, coming in at 39 versus 24. Kansas City, the Fed disappointed, coming in at 24 versus 28. In the end, none of this data was a driver at all. It was all about the retail and semiconductor earnings period, the end. Oil, which has been under pressure lately, did find some stability yesterday, rising 20 cents to end the day at 79.20. The news that Joey has asked Japan and China to join the U.S. in releasing crude oil from our respective SPRs, Strategic Petroleum Reserves, being credited for yesterday's stability, remembering that demand is not going away and the market remains fundamentally tight And any release of oil from the SPR is going to do nothing to substantially alter the balance in the long term. But Joey somehow thinks that if he threatens to release oil from the SPR, that OPEC is suddenly going to stand up and raise output to address the supply issue. How's that working? This morning, Dow futures are down 200. S&Ps are off 13. The Russell's down 30. The NASDAQ, well, go figure. It's up 45 points as the excitement over anything tech continues to excite investors. Asset managers are not backing off, and maybe that's because some of them were holding large cash positions coming into the quarter, expecting a bigger pullback that never happened. So now they're forced to put that money to work before the end of the quarter. Otherwise, they're going to suffer the wrath of investors wondering why they have such a large cash position when the market did nothing but go up, right? I mean, it's right. That's a legitimate argument. Overnight, GOP Congressman and House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy spent 8.5 hours debating the Build Back America bill, right? The ones that the Dems told us was fully paid for, would add nothing to the deficit, because they're going to hire 87,000 new IRS agents, double its current size, to come after you and me, to pick our pockets to pay for this bill. This after they raised taxes across the board. So yesterday, the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, told us that the bill would add $367 billion to the deficit. The Dems were quick to point out that all the new IRS agents were expected to find $200 billion in unpaid taxes. So apparently, the $167 billion balance is nothing but a rounding error. So it means essentially nothing. In any event, there was no vote yesterday, so Nancy's going to try to get a House vote today, which again means nothing because then it goes on to the Senate where it's essentially dead on arrival because Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema are not buying into it, at least not yet. But we'll see if they flip, and then we'll have to wonder what Chucky Schumer promised them. There is no eco data today, so the focus is going to be on earnings, semis, the supply chain issues, inflation, treasury yields, strong holiday shopping season, and speculation about who will be at the helm of the Fed in February. European markets are all lower this morning. There's a new spread of the COVID variant sweeping across the region. Austria has once again gone into national lockdown. Germany announcing new restrictions for the unvaccinated, and Italy, Spain, and France are announcing increasing daily cases. On the data front, UK retail sales were up 0.8%, ex-fuel. Those sales are up by 1.6% as Europe faces spiking energy prices. At 7 a.m. this morning, European markets were all off between 0.25% and 1.2%. Spain was down the most at 1.2%. Bitcoin is down 1.2% this morning at 56,500. This is now down 18% from its most recent high of 70,000 last week. Ethereum is up 2.7% at 4150, but it is still down 11% from its most recent high last week. Know that the Biden Build Back America bill includes problematic tax provisions for regulating crypto, picking your pocket and taking what they think they are owed, thus the weakness, as they look to fund this $4 trillion Build Back America bill. And don't kid yourself, because that's what it is. The S&P closed once again above the century mark to end the day at 47.05, closing just off the daily high of 47.08. We remain in the 46.30, 47.30 range. Expectations for a strong holiday shopping season remain front and center, and calls for an S&P 4,800 by year-end continue to be alive and well. Next week is Thanksgiving. Expect volumes to retreat as people celebrate with family and friends, and lower volumes can create more dramatic moves. So just remember that. A good, well-balanced portfolio is all you need to kind of weather the storm. And that might just mean more of a defensive portfolio. Remember, you can text the word invest at 21,000 to get on your cell phone to get my digital business card. Feel free to download it. It goes right into your contact list. Send me off an email or a text message. Give me a call. I'm happy to engage, talk markets, planning, thoughts, concerns, or ideas. You know, you can follow me on Twitter and TikTok at Kenny Polcari, and you can always get me on Instagram at KennyP1961. Okay, so here's the classic ravioli recipe that I was telling you about. That, you know, as an Italian kid growing up, you always had raviolis at Thanksgiving, right? In this classic bolognese sauce. And so if you grew up in an Italian household, you just know that raviolis were always a thing on the Thanksgiving Day menu. It was the first course. Well, of course, after the appetizers, that would include tomatoes and mutts and roasted peppers and slices of salami and fresh provolone and olives, etc., right? Then we would sit at the table and we'd have the first course. And the first course were these, the big stuffed ricotta cheese raviolis, right? They were so good. I remember sitting at my grandmother's table. Oh my God. And the whole house used to just smell of food. Anyway, so for this you need the classic bolognese sauce, right? So I'm going to give that to you in a second, and then you need just a big pot of salted water. Bring it to a rolling boil. You're going to add the frozen raviolis. They're going to sink to the bottom. Once they all float to the top, that's when they're done. You're going to serve 4 or 5 in a bowl for each person. You're going to top it with the bolognese sauce. You're going to always have extra cheese on your table for your guests, right? So the classic bolognese. So here it is. I've given it to you before, but I'll give it to you again. For this, you're going to need equal parts of ground beef, ground veal, and ground pork. Now, you can use just beef if you want, but I use all 3. You need 3 large cans of plum tomatoes, not in puree, just plum tomatoes, fresh basil, whole milk, olive oil, salt and pepper, onions, carrots, celery, and garlic. You want to begin by sauteing the garlic in some olive oil over medium-high heat in a big pot, right? So go around 2 or 3 times with the oil, put the garlic in, saute it. Then you're going to add in the diced carrots and celery and onions. You're going to stir it. You're going to turn the heat down a little bit. Don't leave it on high, it'll burn. You want it to cook through, cover it so it steams, right? Stirring it every 5 minutes or so. Once the veggies have softened, probably 15 or 20 minutes, then you're going to add the meat. You're going to let it brown in there. You're going to season it with salt and pepper. You're going to brown all the meat. Now you're going to take your plum tomatoes and you're going to run them through the blender quickly. You want some chunk left in them. You don't want them to liquefy, right? Then you're going to take that and add it to the meat, and then you're going to let it simmer. You're going to season it with salt and pepper, and you're going to add some fresh basil. You're going to stir it around. You're going to bring it to a boil, and then you're going to turn it down to simmer. Because remember, you want this to be a hearty sauce, right? You want it to be kind of chunky and beefy. You want it to be hearty sauce. You're going to taste it, adjust when necessary, right? Salt and pepper. Let it simmer for 45 minutes. Then you're going to take it off the heat or turn the heat off, whatever. You're going to let it cool for 5 or 10 minutes, and you're going to add 1 cup of whole milk. You're going to stir the cup of whole milk in. The sauce is still warm enough. You don't want to put the cold milk into the sauce when it's on the stove cooking, because you could potentially curdle your milk. So take it off the stove, take it off the heat. It'll still be warm, just don't let it be cooking. Add the milk, stir it, let it sit there, boil your raviolis, and serve the raviolis. As I said, it is a classic Italian Thanksgiving. In any event, look at this. The sun is out. It's another magnificent day here in South Florida. The weekend is here. Until Monday, have a great time. I look forward to speaking to you. Take good care.